How's it going, film and TV fans? Welcome back to another video here on the Talbot Street Productions YouTube channel. Today we are doing my top 45 movies of 2022, but before we jump into that, I thought I'd just give a little list of honourable mentions of movies that I did watch that didn't make it. I watched 81 movies in the cinema last year, and I just thought I'd give a couple of honourable mentions that didn't quite make it on this list. So we've got The Forgiven, starring Ralph Fiennes and Jessica Chastain; The Black Phone, starring Ethan Hawke; Bodies, Bodies, Bodies; Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore; Violent Night; Crimes of the Future; Bros; The Phantom of the Open; The Duke; Minions: The Rise of Gru; Ticket to Paradise; Sonic the Hedgehog 2; Death on the Nile; Beast, the Idris Elba one; and X. So all movies I just want to give honorable mentions to. They're not on this list, but they're all movies that I actually, really did enjoy, but it just would have taken too long to put this whole thing together. So let's start, shall we? As we mean to go on with number 45, Avatar: The Way of Water. Now, there will be a video review of this movie coming soon once I get back into movie reviews, which will be a while from now because I'm still doing various college work. But I haven't reviewed the original Avatar yet, but I have seen both of the movies. I do think the original Avatar is a pretty well-made movie. It drags a little bit, but it actually does have a great story to it as well, which is something this one really doesn't have for it. Like, don't get me wrong, it's only at the bottom of this list as a movie when you take all of the elements combined together into account here. If I take the separate elements like the visuals, which are absolutely stunning, and of course the music as well as the production, all of that stuff is absolutely brilliant. And if this was a list based off purely the most visually appealing movie of the year, this movie would win it. And I'm not saying that it's a bad movie, because I've seen many more movies this year that, like I said, I've seen 81, and this is 45 of 81. So it's by far definitely not the worst movie I've seen this year. If you want to know what that is a little movie called Father Stu, which was, I'm not going to get into that here, but with this movie, I think the issue I have with it is that just the story, it didn't work for me. It didn't feel like it had purpose. It didn't feel like anyone or anything was really working for me personally. Like the whole story of the captain turning into an avatar and going to hunt Jake Sully. Cool, that works, but why is he hunting Jake Sully? Why is he going after Jake Sully? It's just, he's told, oh yeah, by the way, Jake Sully, go find that guy, he bad. Like, he's not told why he's bad. He's not told that Jake Sully killed him. He's just told, man bad, go find bad man. Okay, now, I used to think James Cameron was I say used to, a couple of months ago, I used to think James Cameron was a bit of a douchebag and a hack, but I have watched interviews with him recently, and he seems like, especially, I rewatched, I saw Titanic in the cinema, because it was, 25th anniversary, and, well, I don't think he's a douchebag or a hack anymore. I think this was just sort of, it was a letdown for me. I was excited for it, and I think another big problem I have with it is that, there's the part where they go to the sea area, and then there's two different shades of blue people, and it's really hard to keep track of who's who, and I constantly got lost with the characters, so that for me is why I think it's weaker, and I think for me it's this low on the list, personally. Anyway, up next we have 44, Emily, the Emily Bronte biopic about the writer of Wuthering Heights. Again, this is a 2022 movie in the United Kingdom. However, in the United States, it was released, I think, last month or a month previous, I think. So there is that to keep in mind. But I think this movie, it suffers with, I'd say, at least in the musical department, taking heavy inspiration from the personal history of David Copperfield. It's not at all the same kind of movie, because this is a serious movie. And David Copperfield, if you watch my review, is a very comedic movie, which it suits that kind of style. But I think for Emily, here, this movie, I think it tells the story well. It's got some really nice visuals and production design. The script is a little off in places, and I think there are places where it did drop the ball a bit. But the lead actress here is fantastic. I can't remember her name to save my life. is fantastic. The movie itself as a whole is thoroughly enjoyable. Emma McKay, that's it. Yeah, there isn't much more to say really. It's a well-made movie. I enjoyed watching it. I loved the music in it as well for the most part, and I think it tells its story quite well. But it just dropped the ball in some places, I think, as well as the colour can be a little bit distracting in places too. But hey, into number 43, we have The Outfit, starring the wonderful Mark Rylance in the leading role, and followed by Leah Thompson's daughter, whose name escapes me all the fucking time. But I love this movie. This is where we're getting into the territory where every movie after this point I think is bloody brilliant, and I recommend everyone watch. I love the whole... This movie basically takes place in a single room. It's obviously saved a lot on the budget, but the script actually uses that to its advantage, and it's not sort of a budgetary constraint. It's a creative use, I think, of it, and that's what I love the most about it. It's all in pretty much all in one room. There's a few times where they go out of it, but not very often. And I think it really allows you to feel almost claustrophobic in that space when everything happens and there's multiple people in the room. And again, the way it's shot also gives you almost that sort of you're getting closer and closer with these characters, so you're feeling more and more claustrophobic as the movie goes on, and as you learn more information. And the big plot twist, I'm not going to spoil it, but the big plot twist at the end of this movie is really, really well done. Again, music here by Alexandre Desplat, really great score, as you can hear from what you're listening to now. And I think generally it's one of the movies that I would say is one of the more underrated movies of last year, because it's really fun, it's really entertaining. It ain't setting the world on fire, but it's a thoroughly enjoyable little gangster thriller movie starring Mark Rylance in the leading role, and he does appear again on this list. I assure you, he's in, I believe, one other movie on this list. So yeah, and a few of the other actors in this movie also appear in one of the upcoming ones as well in this list. So yeah, but I think The Outfit is a fantastic little movie that I highly recommend. If you live in the UK, I believe it's currently on Sky, so enjoy that. In at number 42, we have Terrifier 2. Now, this is... I was introduced to the Terrifier movies last year. I watched Terrifier 1, and I actually watched Terrifier 2 at home. I didn't get a chance to see it in the cinema because it basically didn't have a theatrical release in the United Kingdom and went through Signature. I have the box set that contains 1 and 2 on Blu-ray, but I just love this shit. I really love this shit so much. I'm a big horror fan. I love watching any horror movies. I see a lot of horror movies in the cinema, and I think this is just some funky shit. It's just hilarious. Like, the first one had this really gory kill of this woman getting cut in half, and that's one of my favourite scenes in that movie. But here, the gore is up to another level, and it's brilliant. I will admit, it's a bit long at 2 hours and 20 minutes. Usually these movies come in around an hour and a half, so to have one almost double that, it feels a bit draggy at times, but I will say it's just so much fun, and I highly recommend you give it a watch, because it's just so fucking stupidly fun. And Art the Clown may be the best thing in horror, like, ever. It's so funny. David Howard Thornton plays him perfectly, and I just absolutely adore the whole concept of the movie being as wacky and stupid as it is, really. Yeah. In at number 41, we have Lightyear, the first animated movie on this list, and definitely not the last. Now, Michael Giacchino's score aside, which is really good, this movie stirred up a lot of controversy last year, and I really think whatever controversy it gained was completely unwarranted. This was one of the first, it's the first entry on this list where I can confidently say that it was a critical and financial bomb at the box office, which caused Disney and Pixar to re-evaluate how long they put certain movies out in cinemas, and it's what caused Strange World, which isn't on this list because I've not seen it yet, to have, I think it was just on a month in the box office. It came out in late November in this country, and by and by a month, like late November, about 22nd, 23rd of November, and by the following month it was already on Disney Plus. So you know, if you take that all aside, I think this was a brilliant little movie, and I saw it with a bunch of friends, and we all said that it's the most original, the most unoriginal movie, because it takes from Star Wars, it takes from so much, and it was great fun to point those things out in the cinema. But that doesn't mean that just because it's completely unoriginal, it's terrible, because it uses those unoriginal elements and actually sort of makes them creatively interesting, I think, for me. And my favourite element of this movie, it's on the poster right there, is Socks the cat. That cat is fucking awesome. Okay? But again, it's one of those movies where I gauge you to watch it again without the whole sort of controversy that it is surrounded with. I'm not going to talk about it because it's not warranted here, but I'm just saying that there was controversy around it, and it's like, it was literally a throwaway bit. Like, if it was a main central plot line, sure, but the whole thing that drew the controversy was literally like a throwaway single scene where it's mentioned that there's a same-sex relationship in the movie, and it's like, you're ruining this movie because of one scene that is really not that important to the plot of the movie. Like, I don't understand why people got so mad about it, but it's such a cool movie and a fun movie, and as someone who's been watching the Toy Story universe since I was very little, having VHS copies of Toy Story 1 and 2, I watched the third one in the cinema, I watched the fourth one in the cinema, so as someone who's been a huge fan of the Toy Story universe for most of my life, it was great to see this whole concept of this is the movie that the toy was based off of, and I think it works really well. And I highly recommend you watch it again, if not for Socks, if not for the Michael Giacchino score, just for your own personal enjoyment, because it's great. Anyway, in at number 40 we have Barbarian, another horror movie. Now, I do like me some horror, and there's a few horrors on this list, as we've already discussed. I think this is one of the more original horror movies that came out last year, which is why it's on this list, because I think it was really fun. I think the trailer is a little bit misleading with certain characters, but I'm always for Justin Long. I think Justin Long is one of the best actors out there. He's an awesome person, and he is so good at this movie, and he is in another movie on this list as well. And I also watched him in a movie called Tusk this year as well, which is a brilliant movie as well. But back to Barbarian. It very much is unforgiving in how, I mean, it has some conventional elements to it as well when it builds things up and stuff like that, but it also doesn't push those elements too far forward, which I think for me grabs me. The lead performances, we've got this lady here whose name escapes me all the time, and Bill Skarsgård's in this movie as well for not very long, I'll give you that. I'm not going to say how or why that's an occurrence, but he's not in the movie for very long. And then Justin Long takes his position as the lead male protagonist, and I think that whole idea with the subplot with Justin Long is really where the movie actually kicks into gear and gets going quite well. It's just so interesting to see a movie like this, because in all honesty, while the actual conclusion of it and the execution of the mystery wasn't the best, it was the build-up that actually worked for me more than anything. I know the other friend I saw this with said that really brought it down for them, but I think it was the build-up to, I think that's what I like the most about it, is it was build up to this is going to be something really interesting, something really wacky, what is this? And then it to be something so conventional, I think is an actual bonus for the movie, because it almost averts expectations rather than let them down. And I think that's what the filmmakers were going for, and obviously my other friend didn't see it that way. I'm not going to say he's wrong, because he's not, but he just didn't see it the same way I saw it. And I think it's a fantastic little horror movie that is really underappreciated, and I recommend you go watch now, as in the UK it's again streaming on Disney+. Anyway, in at number 39, I believe we have the next animated movie on this list, and I can tell you it's definitely not the last issue, probably know what else is on this list, but I have to make the confession that this was a movie that at first glance I was like, this is going to be really bad, and I had fallen out of love with animated movies at this point in time. I was like, I really don't care for animated movies that come out at that point anyway, and this was one that was like, it was the nail in the coffin. I was like, this looks shit, I don't want to see this, it looks terrible. So my friend invited me to go see it, and I thought, you know what, might as well, it's not going to kill me. I haven't seen the friend in a while, and he was going with someone else who I'd spoken to but not seen before, so I was like, cool, I'll just go and see it. And I came out and I thought, this is really fucking good. and I did say to myself then that it restored my personal faith in the future of animated movies in a world where they're becoming less and less apparent, and in a world where stuff like this and DreamWorks' other movie from 2022, which we'll be talking about far more later on this list, prove to the world that animated movies can be good, can be original, and can be fucking excellent again. And obviously with the recent Super Mario Brothers movie coming out as well, I think animated movies are back in a way that they haven't been in nearly 20 years, and I'm excited. But The Bad Guys as a whole is an absolutely fantastic movie. It has a stellar Daniel Pemberton score, the cast is great, the actual animation style, I love DreamWorks' new sort of almost anime-esque animation style. It's beautiful and it is great here. They all have so great interaction with each other as the character, and the story actually really works here as well, with Fox wanting to go good and falling in love. But it sounds conventional, but it works really well with these characters, and they're really wacky, and I would love to see a sequel. Now, I do know that this movie actually is based off of a book, which I didn't know beforehand, but it feels more original than anything else that has been put out recently. I think the whole cast and crew is great, and I really hope that we see a sequel to the movie because it was brilliant. And it's another movie in the United Kingdom where physically it's only available on fucking DVD. I'm going to be making a video about this because it boils my fucking blood. But away from that, it's a great movie that I recommend you watch. And again, it's my 39th favourite movie of 2022. Up next in 38, we have Operation Mincemeat. Now, this is a British movie, I'll warn you. There are a few of these on this list. Actually, the top one is, but not in the conventional British way like this is. This is very much a movie that is primarily targeted towards the older generation of film goers. And I think that is something that was very apparent to me when I went to see this movie in the cinema. I was pretty much the youngest. Me and my friends were pretty much the youngest people in the room. But that doesn't detract from the fact that this is a really great movie, and one of the reasons why I personally love this movie so much is because it has Ian Fleming in it, played perfectly by the guy who plays him. But it's not that, but it's also telling such a brilliant true story about Operation Mincemeat and how it was they tricked the Germans. It's a fantastic story, it's told so fantastically well, and the cast does a phenomenal job of playing every character. The twists and turns that happen throughout the movie are so much fun, and it's great to see this cast really put their all, I think, into each character and play them so front and forward. I think it's not the first time we'll see Colin Firth here on this list. It is the first, and it certainly won't be the last, like I said. And it certainly won't be the last time we see Thomas Newman on this list either, and his musical score, which you're hearing now, which is fantastic, by the way. It's important to know that this was another one of the movies that was delayed due to COVID. It was supposed to come out in 2021. It was supposed to come out in January 2022, but it got pushed to March. In the States, it came out on Netflix. So a lot of those movies are on this list. I don't think any of the ones we've covered previously have had that big of a delay, which is why we're not talking about it. But this is one of those movies that has had that, and the next one, which I'm very excited to talk about, was a big delayer. But yeah, I think Mincemeat is a great movie. It's an underrated little British movie that I highly recommend you go check out because it's so much fun to watch, and the cast really pulls it together, I think. And I dig war movies. This is why I chose to study history, to learn about World War One, World War Two, the Cold War, that era of stuff, which is why I was let down, where we spent about 2 lessons on that and about 35,000 of on what King Henry VIII ate with his 12 fucking sons and that shit that I don't care about. But Operation Mincemeat is a great movie, and I highly recommend you go check it out because it is fantastic. If you live in the States, it's on Netflix. If you live in the United Kingdom, it's on Sky, and I'm glad I checked it out at the cinema. I will point out almost all of these movies, in fact, yeah, all of these movies I saw at the cinema. So yeah, and I can't wait to rewatch it again. Anyway, up next at number 37 is Jackass Forever. Now, I was really toying with the idea of not including this specific movie on this list because is it a movie? But I rewatched all the Jackasses and I was like, I know I shouldn't have, but I've been watching Jackass since I was 12 years old. I saw the first movie then, so to be able to actually say that this was literally, if not my singular favourite cinematic experience in 2022, it means it had to be on this list. It's just, you know what, there isn't, like, I can't say it has great shots or great execution, great cinematography, because it fucking doesn't. It's not what, you know what I mean? Like, what more can I say than it was just really fucking funny, and it was really great to see these guys back on the screen again. Obviously, it'll be the last time. Obviously, there's the whole drama with this, well, not drama, but obviously it's unfortunate this is the first Jackass movie to not feature Ryan Dunn, rest in peace, and Bam Margera, who has been going through some issues as of late and during the whole filming of that. But it's just great to see these people who I essentially, even though I shouldn't have, grew up watching their antics return to the big screen one last time. It was a fantastic experience because it's just one of those movies that it's not a movie, but it's great fun to watch, and I love it for that reason. Jackass Forever is an absolutely stellar movie, and I highly recommend you check it out on Paramount Plus right now. It's just, I know it's not really a real movie, but fuck it, it's a great experience. I had so much fun watching it in the cinema. It was the hardest I've ever laughed at a movie in the cinema, period. And I really wish they would re-show the other Jackass movies, because, you know, like, the feeling I got of seeing Jackass in the cinema was so different to sitting on the sofa and watching it, because you get the audience reaction where everyone's laughing with you instead of you're sat at the sofa going, that's quite funny, where in the cinema everyone's just laughing. So yeah, Jackass Forever, number 37. In at number 36 we have Scream 2022. Now again, this one was included in this list after having recently seen its sequel, Scream 6, which is one of the best movies of 2023 so far. But again, Scream 5, for what it's worth, I really enjoyed it. Is it the pinnacle of the franchise? No. Is it better than 3? Everyone will be better than 3. That's just a fact. But it is really enjoyable. Like, Brian Tyler being on the score is something I love. Brian Tyler's one of my favourite composers, if not my favourite, so it's great to see him join another epic franchise like this, obviously because of the directors. But it's nice to know that Scream is still that one franchise where every one of these movies is incredibly enjoyable, and actually I would say is a fucking great movie. And that's a rarity with a lot of franchises these days, especially franchises going 6 films strong, to say that every one of them is just watchable, you know. And this is something you can't say about all big horror franchises, Friday the 13th, but I think this movie just feels like it was a continuation of what Wes left behind. Not Wes Anderson. Wes Craven directed the first 4, passed away not long after the 4th one came out. So we're here with these new set of directors who are honouring the legacy so perfectly. It's great to see Gale, to see Dewey, and to see Sidney. Of course, Dewey meets his end in this movie, which is unfortunate. But the whole movie as a whole, it feels so as an homage to what came before, as an homage to Wes, and to show we're not just going to sit here and remake the first one, we're actually going to be properly meta and continue that legacy. And Scream 6 is sort of, let's push past the legacy that we're homaging and create a new one with these new characters while still incorporating the old. So Scream is just an absolutely fantastic movie. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think as a franchise, Scream is really important to a lot of people. I know, as someone who didn't and doesn't have that long 30 plus year history with Scream, I only watched it last year for the first time before I saw this movie. I watched them all in a row, but I can see why it means so many. And that original movie is an absolutely, it's a masterpiece. It's one of the best, if not the best, horror movie ever made. So to see a franchise last so long and be so brilliant in every single installment is fantastic. And again, I can't wait for Scream 7 when that shit comes out next year, hopefully. Number 36, Scream 2022. Number 35 is Jordan Peele's Nope. Now, Jordan Peele is a filmmaker who I've only seen 2 films of, Get Out and Nope. I'm yet to watch Us. I really liked Get Out, and I really liked Nope when I looked back on it. I think when I first came out of it, I was very conflicted. But as I learned to understand a lot more about the movie through, they did some promotional campaign where they actually, gave us some stuff in college and showed us stuff about it. They did it all the time, did it with Bond as well, and that sort of thing. As I learned more about it and understood what Peele was going for, it's a movie that, upon first glance, is poorly constructed, poorly executed, and poorly crafted. But if you look deeper into it and understand the meanings he's going for, as with any Peele movie, it's meticulously and perfectly crafted in such a way that only upon that deep dive will you fully understand it. And that is something I truly appreciate from a filmmaker like Peele, to really sort of have those layers, and to be the most crucial part of the movie is to unpack those layers, which is why a lot of the critics were like, I don't understand this, so I don't like it, because the critics couldn't unpeel the layers. But now even I couldn't unpeel the layers at the first. I didn't say it was terrible at first, but it was something that I just felt I didn't understand enough to be able to, love it. But as I understood the movie, and we watched it a couple of times, it's one of my favourite movies from last year, and I will have to admit, I can't wait to see Us, but I know that I love this movie. It's a great movie, and I highly recommend you go check it out. It's coming to Sky Cinema in the UK very soon. But, I just loved every minute of Nope. I think it really does that great job of being a movie to study, because like I said, you have to deep dive into it to understand the entire collection of it. And that for me really leads to a pleasurable viewing experience every single time I watch the movie. Again, the first time in the cinema it might not have been too hot, but I have enjoyed it most times since. So yeah, that is Nope. In number 34 is one that maybe not everyone expected, but it's actually a Channing Tatum movie. Now I'm using my review theme because again the soundtrack never was released, but it's Dog. Now, this is an interesting movie because, again, I would have never said to you that I preferred a Channing Tatum movie to an Avatar sequel or anything like that. But I think this is a very different Channing Tatum movie. I think this is a movie that is, I personally think, Channing Tatum's best movie. And it is partially because he fucking directed it, and he fucking wrote it, and it's based off of his own fucking experience. So that kind of says why it is so good. But I'm a dog lover, I love dogs. And I can't help but love to see this whole road trip movie, and the ending is just beautiful, if you ask me. Yeah, I just think Channing Tatum is someone who can be a really good actor. He's really good in a lot of, he's decent in Lost City. He's pretty funny in the cameo he has in Bullet Train. He can be a good actor, and I think this is definitely his best movie. I think it's one of the better movies of last year, hence why it's 34 on the list. I think it's an underrated gem from last year, personally. While it's not the greatest movie of all time, and it's not the greatest movie of last year, it's never going to set the world on fire, but it's still fantastic to watch. And in the UK, it's streaming on Amazon Prime Video. It's just a great heartwarming tale that has funny moments, heartbreaking moments, just adorable moments, It hits every single field perfectly, and that's what I love most about it, which is why it's 34 on my list of top 45 movies of 2022. Let's move into number 33, and we have Elvis. Now this... I don't love this movie, but I don't hate it either. It has its problems, but I cannot deny that Austin Butler's performance is incredible. The music is fantastic, and Luhrmann's direction for the most part is fantastic. Baz Luhrmann is a filmmaker who I only discovered through this movie, although I knew he directed Romeo and Juliet, which I saw, but that's not really relevant here. I think he's a genuinely awesome guy. I follow him on Instagram and see what he has to put. He seems genuinely dedicated to his craft, and again, this movie comes off as a love letter to Elvis Presley, and it's great to see that the Presleys themselves were incredibly happy with it as well. I just think there is some problems with the editing in some places, with the visual effects, namely with the casino bit at the beginning, and I think it does go on a bit too long, but it does perfectly sum up Elvis's life, and I cannot sit here and tell you that it wasn't a great movie to watch, because it was. And another thing that I think got under a lot of people's skin was the use of modern pop music in conjunction with Elvis's style, which I get why Baz Luhrmann does that, and it works for, say, end credits with the CeeLo Green and Eminem song, but it doesn't work when you shoehorn, say, a rap track into A Hound Dog by Doja Cat, and it's walking through 1950s, New Orleans, and it's just Doja Cat going, rapping. It's just it doesn't work. It never was going to work. I don't know why you tried it. Hey, Tom Hanks does a great job as the Colonel, playing this almost evil character. I think I really appreciate that kind of role for Tom Hanks, and it's one that I would say overall give it a good watch. It's another one targeted at that older generation as well, because a lot of them, like my grandmother, has seen this movie. It's one of those movies that it's designed for people who it's not designed for 20-year-old movie critics like myself, per se, but I still enjoyed it. I still think it's a fun movie, but I don't think it's the best of this year, hence why it's quite low on this list. But that doesn't mean I don't recommend it. I do recommend it, and I am still waiting for that score to drop. Baz, you promised it. Drop the fucking score now. Which is why I'm using a kind of a piece of score from the deluxe album, but hey, that's Elvis. In at number 32 we have The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Is one of the best movies of last year. I love it. I think it's just so much fun. I can't put any higher than this because it is a silly, stupid action flick that doesn't deserve to be in the likes of Everything Ever All at Once and The Whale. But I can't deny I had so much fun watching this movie. Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal. That is a combination I didn't know I needed in my life, but I'm happy that it's in my life now. They are brilliant. I need a movie with just these two doing stuff together, or a TV series, because they have just the most chemistry in this movie, and it's brilliant. Like I said, this movie isn't going to set the world on fire, but it's funny, It is action-packed. It is just a great movie to watch. If you're ever, I'd say it's one of those late night movies you put on when you're really tired and you just want some comedies or some laughs. I, for one, I've always put this movie on when I'm feeling a little down because it makes me laugh. It is something that I'm not proud of, but this was the first Nicolas Cage movie I've ever seen, and the next one is going to be Renfield and not any of his others, unfortunately. But it's a great movie, and I can't help but recommend it to everyone to watch because it's just so much fun, man. God, I had never had that much fun at the movies in a long time. And it's a great example of, if I put this movie next to something like After Sun, which we'll be talking about much later on, or say Empire of Light, where I love both movies equally, but obviously Massive Talent is the entertainment, the comedy, the fun kind of movie where you're taken out of your world and into just fun action, whereas Empire of Light, Whale, After Sun, those kind of movies are all about being transported from this world into another serious world and living almost real life. And I appreciate both kinds of movies, but ultimately somehow I find myself watching the latter more often, the comedy, these kind of movies, more than say, like After some of the things I've watched this movie more than I've watched Empire of Light. That's what I'm trying to say here. But it's a great movie and I recommend you check it out. In at number 31 we have, and now this is probably going to not look too good for a lot of people either, I think. I know a lot of people expected this one to be a lot higher, but that doesn't mean I hate it, because I don't. My opinion of this movie has floated so much because I cannot sit here and pretend that the enormous impact this movie has had on the movie industry as a whole. One of the few movies that, I cannot sit here and underestimate the importance this movie has had on the movie industry in 2022 and, and beyond. It's made, one of the biggest, highest grossing movies of last year, billions of dollars. It got so many people to go back to the cinema in a time where every movie that was coming out saying this is the one that people's returning to cinemas to. But it was truly this movie that everyone, and I mean everyone, returned to. My mother's seen this movie, my aunt has seen this movie, my grandmother has seen this movie. That is how many people, that's to go to show how many people went out to see this movie. And I think I give that my hats off to it, that kind of respect to it, because it, I can't sit here and tell you that it isn't one of the most important movies that came out last year, because it is. But personally, there's something's off. It's not Tom Cruise, trust me, but something feels a little off. Don't get me wrong, visuals are brilliant, the aerobatic sequences are fantastic, the story is great, and it's one of those movies again where you can just sit back and enjoy the ride. It's great, don't get me wrong, I love it. I think it's one of the best movies of last year, but something was bugging me. I don't know what it was, but I can't describe it. It doesn't mean I didn't enjoy myself, because I fucking did. I loved every minute of it. I saw this movie like 3 times at the cinemas. It's a great movie, but something feels off, and there were just 30 more movies that I personally enjoyed a bit more. And this is where we're starting to enter the part of this where might be a bit controversial, some of the opinions here. But yeah, that's my opinion on Top Gun Maverick. My review is coming soon, and I can't wait to share it with you. But yeah, up next, in at number 30. I know, not the best picture to have in front of me after saying Top Gun Maverick, but listen, I'm a sucker for Wes Anderson movies, as you all know, as I've covered them all in great detail, and I cannot wait for Asteroid City. And this was a very Wes Anderson style movie, which is why I love it so much. I think the cast is great, Pemberton's score, fantastic. The story works for me really well. I like the way it's told, in almost like you see Adrian Brody's character's perspective of everything, and then you see what's happening now, because he's the first character to die. I know it's a trope it's done before, but it's done quite well here. It's great to see Harris Dickinson in another movie. He's been in so much over the last few years. The Kingsman, this, Triangle of Sadness, it keeps on going for him. His career's going up. Again, it has a great cast. It's great to see Adrian Brody in a movie like this. Obviously, Adrian Brody is the only one who has actually previously been in a Wes Anderson movie in this cast, which is interesting. But, Sam Rockwell was brilliant, as always. And so Saoirse Ronan is fantastic as well. It's funny, it's laughable, it's enjoyable. It's a great little flick, another underrated movie from last year, another Searchlight Pictures movie from last year, and not the last we'll be covering on this list as well. And as such, it really does push different and interesting elements forward. I think for me, it's great to see a very British Wes Anderson style movie, and that's what I appreciate the most about it. Up next in 29, we have Amsterdam. This is a hard movie to talk about without understanding that it is another one of the movies on this list that was a critical and financial bomb at the box office, and it is resulting in David O. Russell coming out and saying that he doesn't think he's going to direct the movie ever again after the failure of this movie, which is a shame because I think this is the single most underrated movie of 2022. It is really fun. It has an incredible cast, a brilliantly told story, and some really great performances as well. And again, Pemberton score, top notch. It's really a shame that it bombed this high at the box office because it is a really good movie, but like I said, it was a critical and financial flop, one of the biggest box office bombs of 2022, which is a real shame because it shouldn't be put on a list next to fucking Morbius. That's a disgrace if you ask me, and one that saddens me, and I am happy to say I was one of those patrons that did see it in the cinema, and I loved every second of it. I love a good Christian Bale movie, and the chemistry between Christian Bale, Margot Robbie and John David Washington is incredible here. I highly recommend you go out and give it a watch because, like I said, I think it is the most underrated movie of 2022. Please do check it out. It's on Disney Plus in the UK, probably Hulu in the States. Don't know, don't care, just fucking watch it because it's great. I think I've already reviewed this movie on the channel, so go check that out, review it as well. But yeah, Amsterdam, number 29. In at number 28, I will start off by saying this is the most wackiest fucking movie in the world, and it's another one that was a financial box office bomb. It wasn't a critical failure, but it was a financial one, as again, no one went to see it. I saw it not on the big screen, which I'm happy to say I did, but barely anyone else did. And as such, in the United Kingdom, it is streaming exclusively on Amazon Prime Video. Again, it's from George Miller. It's literally the wackiest, most craziest, stupidest movie I've seen in my life. It's brilliant. It's just so fucking stupid at times. It's wacky. You really need to just sit down and take it all in. It's this weird and wacky, wonderful tale with Idris Elba and Tilda Swinton at the forefront. It's told brilliantly, it's scored brilliantly, it looks brilliant. What more do you want me to say? It's a really good movie, an underrated movie from last year that I recommend you go and source out because it's great fun. And yeah, there's not much more to say really. It's the wonderful wacky world of George Miller's brain, a place I would love to live for about 10 seconds before it would just kill me. Anyway, in at 27 we have The Lost King. Now, I know a lot of people thought this movie was an overrated piece of shit, but I can't help but think it was great. It's a great tale, it's a British tale. Sally Hawkins, Steve Coogan, great performances. Another Alexandre Desplat score, great to see. I just think, I can't help but feel that, again, once again with history, I'm drawn to it. It's not exactly the history that I love, but I think it's told in such a fantastic way. And it's told in such a unique way. I think that for me, it really resonated with me in a way that I hadn't seen from a movie in a while. I think Sally Hawkins' performance is terrific. Steve Coogan as a secondary is great. And it's great to see the guy who was in Doctor Who about 15 years ago, or 18 years ago now actually. Well, no, about 15 actually, yeah. As King Richard III. He gives a great performance. It's an interestingly told story. And it's another movie that only came out on DVD in the United Kingdom. I'm starting to fucking lose it. But aside from that fact, I saw this one in cinemas as well, as pretty much all these movies. I do implore you to check it out at least once because it's great fun, and it is my 27th favourite movie of 2022. What more can I say? In at 26, this fucking movie, man. Bullet Train is so fucking good. Seriously, if there was an award for best, like if there was an Oscar for like best stunt-based, action-based movie, this movie would fucking win it because it is so good. But it's not like Academy Award winning good, unfortunately, like because it would never be there. But it is the most entertaining comedic action movie of 2022. The incredible cast, you know, Brad Pitt, Brian Tyree Henry, you've got Aaron Taylor Johnson, Joey King, Hideki Suzuka, Zazie Beetz, Sandra Bullock, Ryan Reynolds, Channing Tatum, you know, Michael Shannon. It's a fantastic cast. primarily Lemon and Tangerine. I want a TV spin-off show of those two. They stole the fucking show. Absolutely brilliant. It is just one of the best movies of last year. I cannot tell you how much fucking fun it is to watch. It's so good. The score, as you're hearing, slaps so fucking hard. Dominic Lewis, brilliant score. Please, if you haven't watched this movie, watch it. It is incredible. I think it is literally the most brilliant action movie of last year. Like, if I had to pick one action movie as the best one from last year, it is this shit. It is so good. It is so entertainingly fun. Please check it out. In at number 25, we're into the top 25 now. Bones and All is... It's a really good movie, and I love Taylor Russell because she was brilliant in Escape Room. And it's great to see Mike Rylance again in this list as well. Timothée Chalamet is great here. But it just feels... And the Wes and Ross score was great as well. But I don't know. I loved it for what it was. It told a brilliant story, great visuals, great script, spot on direction. It has those elements, but something much like Top Gun fell for me. I don't know what it was, but it just told its story in such a thoroughly... I like the idea of it trying to use that concept of an outsider, of people who are hated, but using it through vampires and blood sucking and shit like that. It's a blood sucking love story. It's a great concept, and it is really well executed. For me, it just falls shy of those other big serious movies. You know, like I say, big serious movies. You know, like the Academy Award stuff. Like, there's a reason why it wasn't in that category, because it just falls ever so slightly short by just a little tiny bit. Like, there's so much to do with it that's great, but there's just something that's not there for it to be an Academy Award winning movie or in that category, which is a shame. But don't get me wrong, it's still a great movie, and I highly recommend you guys source it out because it's great. That is Bones and All. In at number 24. I needed to fix that, but it's Women Talking. This is one I watched most recently, actually, and it's one of two movies on this list that, as a man, made me very uncomfortable watching the movie. It tells its story so beautifully. Again, the use of colour, where they drained almost all the colour from it with just a little bit left. It's great to show that vulnerability and that decision-making style. It's just so perfectly shot. Again, the score, Hilda Guntier, fantastic score. It's a great movie, but I don't think it's one that I would be watching anytime soon again, because it made me feel so uncomfortable, which means it's done its job properly. It's one I seriously recommend you go check out, because it is that important to watch to understand the whole story behind it. It's literally all of the main actresses give fantastic performances, and it's another one that was almost entirely set in one room as well, but it manages to pull that off so well by making you once again feel almost claustrophobic in this room. And Ben Whishaw as pretty much the only, like, the man in the room as well. He is great because he does so little perfectly. It's just so... I can see why it was nominated for Best Picture, and I do think it's a really, really great movie, and I highly recommend you to source it out, because it is just an incredibly important movie to watch, and it's for that reason why it's 24. In at number 23, we have The Batman. Possibly the best, not possibly, factually the best comic movie of 2022. One I rewatched recently. I fucking love this movie. It's so fucking good. It's beautifully shot. The score is incredible. The cast is phenomenal. It's so brilliant. It is one of the best Batman movies ever made. While he may be my favourite Batman, I will say Dana's performance as the Riddler is top fucking notch. How he wasn't nominated for anything for that performance is beyond me. It's so good. I highly recommend you go watch it, because it is fucking incredible. I loved this movie to bits. For a long time, it was my favourite movie of 2022, because it's that fucking good. It is incredible, and I highly recommend you source it out, because literally one of, if not the best comic movie ever made, rivaling The Dark Knight. It's almost perfect. I think this is, we're entering the point now where these movies are almost perfect. Not quite. I think the Top movie may be the best example of that category, but we're entering masterpiece levels. I know that's hard to say, 23 movies with 23 movies to go, or 22 movies to go, but I think personally that's where we are at this moment. But The Batman is literally one of the greatest movies ever made, which makes the next one even more bizarre, and I am unfortunate for this. But again, this is my personal ranking. again, personally me, which is why in at number 22 we have Clerks 3. Now, this isn't... I'm not going to say it's bad because it's my fucking opinion, and I love this movie more than I enjoyed The Batman. Fucking fight me. But I can't sit here and tell you that it isn't because it's a Kevin Smith movie, and I've just loved Kevin Smith as a filmmaker ever since I discovered him with Mallrats and Jay and Bob reboot, and I've gone back and I've seen a lot of the View Askew stuff to understand both Jay and Bob and this. I've seen Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Jay and Bob reboot, I've seen Jersey Girl, I've seen Tusk, I've seen Clerks 2, I've seen Clerks 3, I've seen Jay and Bob reboot, so it's a world I love. I love Kevin Smith as a filmmaker. I think he's one of my favourites. Clerks is a goddamn masterpiece, the first one, and obviously this isn't anywhere near as good as the first one. It is just fantastic to watch. It's a great example of a movie that cost pretty much piss to make, but it's just so beautiful to watch. Like, it's great to see these characters continue the story. The ending is heartbreaking. But I think they're some of my favourite characters in media just because they feel they are... It's something I will talk about later on with After Sun, and I even talked about in the After Sun review. But it's something about the original Clerks and After Sun that I put in the same bracket, in that they're movies that feel real. I feel like you're actually genuinely there in the world with them. But unlike After Sun and Boiling Point and other movies that are so realistically drama to make you feel like there, the original Clerks, and to an extent, and by proxy this movie too, and the second one, are so like almost genuinely everyday real, whereas you've got drama real and everyday real, and that's something I really appreciate about Clerks 1, Clerks 2, Clerks 3. But here it just feels like the perfect conclusion to this story, told in such a brilliant way, obviously using Kevin Smith and the heart attack by putting it onto Randall, and then making the movie. There's some great cameos. Listen, I just love Clerks. I've loved all of them, and I think, again, I will stand by the fact this is my 22nd favourite movie of 2022, and I do prefer it to The Batman. Come and fight me. I love Kevin Smith as a filmmaker. I think this was a great fucking movie. I don't give a fuck. Come at me, guys, in the comments below. Up next in 21, quite possibly the single biggest financial bomb of 2022, The Northman. A movie that a lot of other people didn't like either. The people I saw it with didn't like it either. And for a while, it was my second favourite movie of 2022. It was my favourite for a period as well, until a certain Everything movie came along and fucking knocked it out of the park. But there's something about a movie told like this. Eggers is a fucking phenomenal filmmaker. This is another excellent example of that. The score here is great, as you're hearing, perfectly brilliant. One of my favourite scores of the year as well. But it's just told so beautifully through genuine brutal action. It's just so meticulously well crafted. It's beautifully shot as well, with the great scenery, the great cast as well. There's something about a Viking story. Like I said, I've never been a huge fan of that kind of history. That's not why I chose history, but it's a fucking great movie, told brilliantly, absolutely shot gorgeously, scored masterfully, and it is a real shame that it bombed like it did, because it is just so beautifully made. It's so brutal, it's so vengeful. It's literally like, I can't tell you how gorgeously shot it is, genuinely. And it really does amaze me that we're still sat here with people saying that it is just the most, like, people didn't like it. And it was an experiment, because Eggers' other movies cost piss money to make and were put up at A24. This one cost $90 million, put up by Focus Features and Universal. And of course it bombed hard. Nobody went to see it. I saw it twice, loved it both times. It's a great movie. Please go watch it, because it is fucking brilliant. Please, please, please do support Eggers in the next film, Nosferatu, because he is a great filmmaker, and in my opinion, this is his best movie. Fight me. I haven't watched Lighthouse or The Witch either, so it's kind of not an appropriate statement, but it is what it is. We're now entering the top 20, and we're entering the top 20 with a very interesting movie. Triangle of Sadness. A fucking crazy movie is the easiest way to put it, I think. For me, I think this was one that the trailer was slightly deceiving because it makes you think most of it's set on the boat, but it's really not. Most of it's actually set on a beach, but I just think this is so cleverly fun. Again, it's another Harris Dickinson movie. Woody Harrelson is great here. It's just so brilliant to see a movie so blatantly say, yeah, fuck the rich, fuck them, they're shite. It's just brilliant. I think it's fucking hilarious to watch. Ruben Östlund is a filmmaker I've been watching since this movie. I've got Force Majeure and The Square. I want to watch those movies, haven't watched them yet. But it's safe to say I love his filmmaking style, and I think this is one of the better movies he's made. Obviously, I can't comment on the others, but it's so brilliant. Great use of music as well. It's just so fucking stupidly brilliant. It's one of those kind of movies, and I can see why it was nominated for Best Picture, because it deserved that spot so badly. It's great. Up next in number 19, Buying Cars. What can I say that I haven't already said about this fucking movie? I'm a sucker for English countryside, and this is full of the Welsh countryside, which is beautiful. British countryside, put it that way. And for a while, this was also one of my favourite movies of last year. I think it was number 2 for a long time as well. And again, the Pemberton score, great. There's something just so brilliant about such a wacky little movie like this that takes you away from the big action thrillers to the highly over-the-top dramatised movies like Northman and things like that, and the animated movies. That this filled that void of in a time where the world is incredibly depressed by COVID, by the war in Ukraine, by so much horrible shit. This is really a great feel-good movie to make you really feel so happy about yourself, and it's not in the same way that Massive Talent is, where you put it on late night to make you feel depressed. It's a real feel-good movie that is about a guy who made a fucking robot. There's not much more to say. I'm not going to say too much because I did a video about it already. Please watch that video. But it is still one of my favourite movies, and this specific track is just so brilliant. Please go check it out if you can. It's a gorgeous movie. It's a brilliant movie. It's an underrated movie. Please, please, please check it out. I love it so much. It's beautiful. In at number 18, The Quiet Girl. Now, this is our first non-English language movie we're talking about, actually, and it won't be the last. Unlike the others, this is still partially in English and in Irish Gaelic, but it's so beautifully told as well. It's just so wonderful to hear Irish Gaelic and see Kimberly's on screen. It's so good. I rooted for it to win the Best International Feature or Best Foreign Non-English Language Movie because it's great. It's such a beautifully told movie. It's so wonderfully shot. The whole 4x3 thing is again meant to make you feel claustrophobic with the character as well. It's gorgeous. It's brilliant. I love it so much. Please do search it out. It's another underrated movie from last year that I highly recommend. Please do seek it out because it's beautiful. Stephen Rennick's score is exquisite, and we're lucky to have it now, as we didn't last year. It came out this year. It's so beautiful. Please, please, please check the movie out. It is god tier, and I love it. So please do check it out. It's great. It's so awesomely told. As someone who is part Irish, I love Irish movies, as you'll see a bit later on. Belfast is great, and we'll talk about another one later on. But it's great. Please, please do seek it out. It's told beautifully. The lead actress performs so well. It's shot brilliantly. Wonderful use of colours. Please check it out. It's great. In at 17, the very opposite of The Quiet Girl, Rian Johnson's Glass Onion. Now, I was very, very lucky to see this movie at the London Film Festival closing gala at an Everyman Cinema. Yes, it was a broadcast. I wasn't actually at the London Film Festival, unfortunately, but it's the only Netflix movie I've seen at cinema, and I've already done a review on this one as well, so I'm going to keep this one quite brief as well. But it's fucking brilliant, isn't it? It's so good. The core cast is great. It's great to see Craig back on the big screen as well. What more do you want me to say about it? It's beautiful. It's great. I'm fortunate enough to have seen it on the big screen, even though it did get a limited release. It's so wonderful. Please, 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 of course, watch it on Netflix. It's so funny. It's so beautifully told. It's so charismatically shot. Again, Rian Johnson's score. Fantastic. Not Rian Johnson, Nathan Johnson even. Cousins. It's such a great story. It's told so brilliantly as well. Edward Norton is incredible in this movie. The whole cast is great. There is obviously the bit in the middle of the movie where they go backwards and show everything and stuff, and great plot twist. And the plot twist here is good because it's not what you expect, and I don't mean that in it comes out of nowhere. It's just because it's, as the movie says, it's so fucking ludicrously stupid that it's fucking brilliant. Please, it's a great movie. Check it out. It's incredible. I loved it for what it was, and I need to rewatch it because it is so good. It's so beautifully told, and I can't wait to see the third one, Glass Onion. Up next at 16, the other movie that made me feel incredibly uncomfortable at the cinema, but left me more profound in terms of, I suppose it's because it's an industry I'm trying to enter myself. It's just, again, I'm not in the right position to talk about this movie at all because, again, I'm a straight white man, so it's not my position to talk about it at all. I'm not the right person to listen to. I implore you to do your own research regarding the topic and stuff like that. But, you know, I remember when the story first broke. Obviously I was much younger and didn't understand the consequences of it, but I remember everyone talking about it. I've actually read the article after seeing this movie as well. It's just, I can't, you know, I mean, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it because, like I said, I'm not the right person to talk about it. But it definitely is just a movie I implore every man on this planet to watch because it's important for that kind of thing. Again, Nicholas Patel's score, brilliant. The performance is incredible. I nearly cried at the end. Please just go and check it out. I don't need to say anything else. Just watch it and then you'll understand what I'm talking about. I can't talk anymore about it because I don't feel like I'm the right person or I have the right expertise to talk about it anymore. But it's an important movie. Another one that is only on DVD in the United Kingdom. I'm getting fucking sick of this. But please do check it out. I implore you. It's an important movie to watch. And I'm just gonna, you know, we're moving into the top 15 now, so we're getting closer and closer. But I can't stress enough how to just watch it. This movie, everyone. This fucking movie, Boiling Point. Now, this is not a cheat because it did come out theatrically in the United Kingdom in 2022, January 7th to be precise. And it did get its physical release last year as well with the Boiling Point special edition from Second Sight Films. So I'm counting it as a 2022 movie. This one moved me on a level I hadn't been moved before. It got to a point where I genuinely feel like I was there, and that's the whole idea of the one-shot thing. It's just, this is one of my favourite movies ever made. I think it's one of the more underrated movies of last year as well. It's on Netflix in the United Kingdom. Please check it out because it's just beautiful. The whole one-shot thing, it isn't a gimmick. It's a character upon itself. It's so just like the shots, the way he uses it. Bartini is a great filmmaker. If you haven't watched his other movie, Villain, please check that out because that's a great movie as well. But this is definitely his magnum opus, his masterpiece, and I cannot wait for the TV series. I was lucky enough to see this one in cinemas on its very, very limited theatrical release at the beginning of 2022. And again, there's no score, which is why I'm playing the song that plays over the credits. The ending is bittersweet. It's just so beautiful. I cannot express the importance of it. Anyway, moving into 14. Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, is widely considered the greatest, one of the best animated movies ever made, and I agree. I've never seen an animated movie quite like this one. it tells such a fantastic story. It has just the most memorable characters. It has a great score by Heitor Pereira. It's just so, please watch it. It's one of the greatest animated movies ever made. It's so fucking good. And it's something none of us expected from a sequel to fucking Puss in Boots. Like, how the fuck did this happen? How are we sat here claiming this to be one of the greatest masterpieces of all time? Because it really is. So please go and watch it, because it is just insanely incredible, and I love it for that reason. Please, please, please go check it out. It's incredible. And the visuals of the animation, it's second to none. Please, please, please do check it out. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, everyone. One of the best animated movies ever. And like I said, not the last time we'd see DreamWorks on this list, although now it is. It's a movie that makes me really wanted to have seen DreamWorks do the Mario movie. But I digress. So yeah, that is 14, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. In at number 13. Now, I will say, this movie, first off the bat, has my personal favourite film score of the year in it. I love the score so much. And Colin Stetson is just an incredible composer. But I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that, for a while, this was also one of my favourite movies of last year. And I do genuinely love it. I love a good cooking movie, as Boiling Point proves. And for me, this was the first movie from last year that I was tracking from the first moment it was announced to the moment the first images came from it. As to me, it looked very much like a Best Picture movie. It was going to be it was coming out in November, and I, for one, thought it was going to be a movie that was going to be all over the Oscars. Sadly, it wasn't. I was very upset with that, because I think it deserved to at least be there in some capacity. Which is a shame. However, understandably, obviously not everything can make that cut. So, like I said, the score is magnificent. The cast is great. The story is great. I love the main chef character we've got here in this movie. Please do watch it. It's on Disney Plus. It is fantastically crafted as well. And the ending and the whole hamburger sequence is one of my favourite film sequences ever. It is incredible to watch, and I do recommend that you all check it out. I was, again, lucky enough to see it in the cinema. And it blew me away, I won't lie. It was just such a great experience. But again, there's still 12 more movies on this list, so 12 more that are better than this. Up next in number 12. This is an interesting one. We've got Babylon. Now, Babylon... This was the only movie I saw last year where people genuinely walked out of it. And I will say those were people who walked out were more older people, so that's interesting. Again, this score should have fucking won the Oscar. I've got no idea why the fuck All Quiet on the Western Front did. But again, the score is gorgeous. The movie's brilliant. It's full of vibrant colours, party atmosphere, you know, great visuals, great looking production and set design, costume design, top notch. I've not watched much of the director's filmography before. In fact, this is the first film, but I love it. 2022 had a lot of movies come out that were celebrating cinema in so many different ways. This, The Fabelmans, Empire of Light, which, again, as you can tell, we haven't talked about those two yet. I think they're better than this one. But Babylon, for me, is just such a... It's an experience. It's an experience I love seeing in the cinema because it was so vibrantly... It's a movie that I sorely missed, that type of movie that's just chaotically incredible. It really pushes itself to the forefront of design, and I think it's for that reason why a lot of people didn't like it when it came out. And it's one of those movies that really does border on absolute cinematic masterpiece and fucking cinematic travesty. And it teeter-tatters on that border the entire runtime. Which, give credit, is something I haven't seen many movies do before, so I'm impressed by that. But it is great to watch, I won't lie. And it's that reason that it's this high on the list. We're about to enter the top 10 in One More Movie's time, but that One More Movie is probably one of the most important movies of the year. And I am a little bit upset it's not in the top 10. But that doesn't mean I don't think it's incredible, and it is one of my favourites of last year. So let's move on to number 11, Steven Spielberg's The Fabelmans. Now, aside from the fact that this is definitely Steven Spielberg's magnum, well, actually no, she knows this exists, but this is obviously the most important film bar that he's ever made. He said it himself. And in all the fact that this is very much his personal life story told in such a way, but it is a beautiful movie. And it's told so beautifully as well. Again, John Williams' score. Just listen. I'm just going to stop talking so you can listen. See what I mean? John Williams is a legend. Making a documentary about him, and there was even a featurette about how this is like their fucking bajillion collaboration, and this is friendship that never dies, which is true. But this is such a beautiful movie, and I use that term properly this time. It is so wonderfully shot. It tells a fantastic story. It's got a brilliant trailer as well. Paul Dano once again in an incredible performance here. And I left this movie really feeling something for my love of cinema. Again, it's great to see a lot of filmmakers making that kind of movie about their love of cinema, and what can I say, it hit me personally. So it's an incredible movie from an incredible filmmaker and an incredible composer, and it's almost his swan. I know it's not Williams's, but it's almost looking like it will be Spielberg's swan song and his final movie, which, if it is, it's the perfect place to end such a brilliant and long career. And I do implore you to check it out. I'll put a link in the description. It's a video about how 1993 was Steven Spielberg's most hardest year. Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, all in one go. So I'll leave that in the description below, because that's a great video. But yeah, number 11, The Fabelmans. Up next, we're entering the top 10. With Living. Now this is a goddamn fucking masterpiece. It's based off of I can't say his name, I'm not going to try to do it. It's based off of a Japanese film from years ago, and as such it's just so, Bill Nye should have won that Oscar. It's an incredible movie. I seriously like this one. This one has heart. It has real emotional heart at the centre. And it is a career-defining performance from Bill Nye, and then, you know, the entire cast and crew are great as well. It is truly a brilliantly beautiful film with such a poignant story told in such a heartwarming and life-changing way. And I just love the bits. I think it's an incredible movie. And I wish more people see it, so please, please, please go and check it out, because it's incredible. It's touched me in a place that I hadn't been touched for a while. Not like that. And it did make me think as well, what would you do if you knew you had such little time left? It's that kind of movie, and we're in the top 10 now. My 10 favourite movies of the year. And this is a great place to start that top 10. And continuing on into number 9, we have one of the most talked about movies of the year. And, you know, one that made history at the Oscars that night when it won the Academy Award for Best Original Song for this song, Naatu Naatu. It's a great song. I listen to it all the time. But it's more than that. It's it's hard to describe really, because it's so action packed, it's so action filled, it's so great, and it's coming from a part of the world whose cinematic industry I had never experienced prior to this movie. There's a few I wanted to watch, this being one of them, but this was the one I had to watch. The others were, I think it was Beast and Jarby in them. I haven't watched those yet, but this was the one I had to watch because no one would shut up about it, and I can understand why. It's great. I implore any of you who are skeptical of it because of its origins, because of the part of the world it was made in and its cinema that it was made in, might put you off. I implore you to watch it because it's fucking brilliant. I know it's 3 hours long, but it's incredible. It's just, it made me realise, the one thing it made me realise the most is that cinema is a universal language across the entire planet. And no matter what country you're from, no matter what language you speak, everyone can speak cinema. And this movie proved that to me, and please just watch it. On the UK, it's on Netflix, or not in an original version, which is unfortunate. But there's that. Anyway, up next we have, in number 8... Argentina 1985. This film, I loved every minute of this movie. It was, again, it's another history movie, a historical movie, history I actually didn't know about, which I actually did some research on after watching the film. So, maybe learn something, that's great. But I think this is one of those movies that's really impactful in a way that I don't think everyone will understand upon first viewing, because it's about fighting for what's right in a place where doing that is going to get you killed, per se. It's going to get you, seen as the villain. Perhaps that's a better way of saying it. And I think that really shines through the whole way through the movie. Of this is the underdog story of these are people who are fighting against the entire country to win the right battle, and it's looking more and more like that they weren't going to win it, thankfully, as it's a movie. But it's just so wonderfully told. Again, it's about fighting against what's wrong to win what's right, and that is something I really applaud. She said, Women Talking, it's those kind of movies where it's the fight that counts the most. You've got to fight for what's right, and if you don't, are you even human? You know what I mean? It's just so profoundly brilliant, and I implore you to watch it. Again, I tell you, every one of these movies is worth watching. This one's on Amazon Prime Video in the UK and most of the places, I believe. That's Argentina 1985. In at number 7, we have... I've already made a 35-minute video on how important this movie was, and since then a lot has happened, as you know, and there's only so many times you can say a movie is a goddamn masterpiece that has travelled across the world, but it really is the underdog story of this is the little movie that rose to the top of winning almost every major award at the Academy Awards that night. Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Picture, Best Directors. It won so much that it truly, truly deserved from everywhere, because it is so different. It's so... Again, there's no such thing as a perfect movie, but this is one of those movies that comes the physically closest as humanly possible to being a perfect movie. And again, I've already talked in depth about how speechless this movie has left me on several occasions, but as you'll have noticed since then, at that time it was 1 on the list. Now it's 7. That's partially because I did see it too many times, as that number is the amount of times I saw it in the cinema. So that was on me, and I made sure not to make that mistake with my number 1. However, I can't deny this is still one of the greatest movies ever made, one of the greatest movies of last year, and every other movie after this, in some ways, this deserves to be a lot higher than it actually is. But there's a reason why it's here. There's a reason why it's at this position, because again, that's down to me personally and my issues with it. But I can't sit here and tell you that it's not the greatest masterpiece of all time. And I also cannot sit here and not tell you that it's still not on physical media at all in the United Kingdom. Only on Prime. Anyway, moving swiftly on to number 6. Tar. Now, this is high on the list for me because this is a movie that's made for someone like me who loves classical music, film scores, film composers in general. So I was always going to love this movie no matter what. But Cate Blanchett's performance is incredible. She won a fucking BAFTA for it at the end of the day. It's an incredible movie. It is quite long, but the one thing that I don't like about it is it spirals into a tangent about cancelism, cancel culture, and wokeism and shit like that, which is something I'm not a huge fan of, shoehorning that shit into a movie, especially as late on in the movie that this movie did do it. But if you take that shit aside, it's a really well made movie about composing, conducting, and the stress that puts on a human being in so many different ways. I think that's what I love the most about it. In at number 5, we have Decision to Leave. Now, again, this one was one that hit me on another level as well, as it also made me realise that there is no other country on earth that can tell a story, cinematically at least, like South Korea. Parasite, this movie, Squid Game, all told exquisitely and beautifully in such different ways. Now, is this better than Parasite? No. Is it just as good as Parasite? Pretty much, yeah. It should have won the Oscar for Best International Feature, but it wasn't even fucking nominated, which really pissed me off. But it's such a beautiful story. It's really pulls you in, and it's another movie that, to me, describes the fact that cinema is a language of itself, and you don't need to understand every language that a movie is in. You can understand it from what the characters are doing, what the characters are saying, even when it's not in English. It's a fucking great movie, okay? It is... I mean, it's a story told in only a South Korean way, I think. But I got really hooked into this one, and I really, really did feel like it's one of those movies that pulled me into a world that I didn't think I could go into, and I'm really happy that happened. Which is great to see in a movie like this. So that's another reason why I think it's really, really good. This was another one. This was, I think, at number 2 for a very long time as well. But there was one that came not long after from the same distributor that took the cake. But we'll get to that soon enough. We've got 3 more movies to go through. We're in the top 5 now. We're getting closer and closer. You probably all know what the number 1 is because I've mentioned it before. But we'll move into number 4, which is... The Banshees of Inisherin. This is what you call a fucking movie. It's haunting, it's beautiful, it's very Irish. It's just so... Again, it's great to see Colin Farrell and... I've forgotten his name, but he's there in a movie again, especially after In Bruges, which, what a masterpiece. I don't think this is as good as In Bruges, but it's nearly there. It's just such an interesting tale as well of how friendship can just change like that, and I think that's the brilliance of it. And the brilliance of it is that they didn't show any build up to it. It was just 1 minute they're friends, the next they're not. That's the brilliant thing about it. That's what I love the most about it. It's incredible. The score was great. Martin McDonagh's always one of my favourite filmmakers, and this was one that was straight on the radar as soon as it was announced, which is why I was happy I got to see it in the end, because it was great. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it wasn't quite an interesting watch that can be quite depressing if you're not in the right mood to watch it. But what more can I say? It's the fourth favourite movie of mine from last year, and I do implore that, you know, again, go and check it out because it's fucking incredible. It's an absolute superstar of a movie, and it is a shame that it didn't take home any Oscars. It's very unusual for Mr. McDonagh to not take any home, but hey, this was that year. In at number 3, we have The Whale. Now, this was the one movie that I did actually cry at in the cinema as well. I actually cried at the end of this movie. Brendan Fraser is a fucking god, and we must protect him at all fucking costs. He is awesome. This is... I'm not going to say this is the Renaissance starting point, because that was Doom Patrol. He was great in that series, and that's what really got his groove back. But obviously this is the big mainstream, the movie. And it is beautiful. It's so tragically beautiful. Again, this is one of the movies where the 4:3 aspect ratio is used to make you feel claustrophobic, and it does it perfectly. It was great to see it on the big screen. I loved every second of it. I think Brendan Fraser is an incredibly talented performer. I think Bob Simon's score is fantastic. Darren Aronofsky's directing is incredible. It's such a perfect tale for now as well. And it does make you feel, like I said, I cried at the end of it. It really does push you to that limit of this is how this story ends. There's no other way this story is going to end. This is how it will end. This is how it will always have ended. This is how it will always end. And I think that's interesting to me. But there just so happens to be 2 more movies that I personally prefer to this one. And without further ado, let's get into the 2 that I juggled around the most, I think. And that is, in at number 2, Empire of Light. Now, again, this is only this high because of me personally. I am someone who had fallen in love with Margate in 2020 when I went there for the first time. I visited there. Loved every second of it. It's a place I love to bits. I would love to live there one day, or have a house there at least. And when I heard they were making a movie about the cinema that used to be there, and that they actually filmed in Margate, and I was like, this is the shit I need to see. Then I found out it was directed by Sam fucking Mendes, and I was like, this is going to be the shit. And it was. It's an incredible movie for me personally. Again, this is one of the ones where it's personally my favourite, because of the connection the place holds, and it's just seeing a place that I've actually physically been to. I've stepped on the ground that she walks across, you know, numerous characters walked across before. I've been to those places. I've walked along that street. I've walked along the promenade. I've been on the beach, you know. Something about seeing a place that I've been to before in such a big mainstream movie really resonated with me in a way. Resin Ross's score, brilliant. It's got a fantastic trailer. It's just so special to me personally. It's one of my favourite movies because of what it's about, because it's in a place that I love. Sure, I don't exactly connect to or have any personal connection to any of the characters in the movie. You know, I'm not like any of those characters, but that's not the point. The point is that Margate is the character that I connect to the most in this movie. Margate is the most important character in this movie to me, which is why I love it so much. On Disney Plus, go and watch it. It's great. Colin Firth, Olivia Colman, Michael Ward, Toby Jones. Incredible movie. And I really, really do implore you to take time out of your day to watch this movie and the next one. But as you all know, my favourite movie of 2022 is, of course, Aftersun. Now, again, I don't need to talk too much about this one because you know what I'm going to say. I've made a 30-minute video about this one too, so just watch that. But all I can say is that this one hit me the hardest. Of all the movies, this was the one that hit me the hardest, I think. Scottish director, Scottish filmmaker, Scottish little actress, and an Irish one as well. Something about it just hit me personally on a level. I mean, you know, I've only grown up with just my mum, so the whole single parent thing was something I did have a personal, you know, connection to, albeit the genders were obviously swapped around because I'm a man and my mother is a female. So, and it's, you know, it's just such a poignant story. It's just so wonderfully told, wonderfully acted. That score is incredible. The performances are great. It really touches you in places that you should never have those kind of feelings in before. It makes you feel so many things. It's another movie that you feel like you're there, and that's what I love the most about it. I think is that you just keep on going through all of it. You just push and push and push, and that final scene that you're hearing the score from now is just so hitting, you know. Few words describe it to me. It's my favourite movie ever right now, personally. Yeah. Aftersun, my favourite movie of 2022. Again, go watch it. So many times I can say that for every single movie. I implore you to go check it out. It's incredible. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope to see you in the next one very, very soon. More reviews coming soon. More gameplay kind of videos coming soon too as well. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out all the other videos below. Talbot is coming soon. And I'll leave you with Oliver Coates' Aftersun score. Bye bye for now.